Hi, this is Brian with CutterPros.com. Today we're looking at maintenance on this Creation CR series vinyl cutters. They're very easy to maintain, easy to get to the spare parts inside. So before we start ripping into the machine, the very first thing we always do is we unplug it. So no power when we take the machine apart, as there will be exposed high voltage lines on the inside. Some things you can do without taking the cutter apart. You can get to the carriage. The carriage here can, to remove the carriage from the rail, it's spring loaded against the rail. It does take a little bit of effort to get them off. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to push down and pull out towards you from the bottom, and you'll hear the bottom wheels disconnect, and then it can come straight up and out. And this will allow you to remove the carriage from the rail. In order to loosen the belt and reduce the tension on the belt, there's a belt tensioner inside, which we'll have to get into the cutter for that. Also, you can see here, this is the LCD panel. This decal on the top is replaceable. So this is basically a decal. It's peel and stick. You can pull this off and you can put a new one back on for replacement of the decal. Usually when you replace the button panel underneath, the decal has to be replaced, as the fasteners are underneath the decal, and to get to the heads of the fasteners you need to do that. The pinch rollers, I'm going to rotate the cutter. So on the back side of the cutter, I don't know if you can zoom in here and see this, there's a fastener on the back rail here. And to swap out pinch rollers, it's pretty easy. You just remove this fastener. I'm going to remove it real quick here. So once this fastener is removed from the rail, these pinch rollers will slide off into this open zone here, which allows them to come right off. So you just go past here, and then out they come. You put in the new ones that you want. Obviously, if you want to change the one on the other end, you have to take the other two off first. Slide the ones you want in, and then replace the screw. And always, when you're putting fasteners in, use low torque settings, so we don't strip any screws out, and that'll just keep them from sliding off the rail as such. Okay. So next, what we're going to do, we're going to remove the end caps. So as I mentioned in prior videos, always be careful when you're lifting this lid up. We've got these cables here on the side, and if we pull on them too much, they can detach from the panel here. Usually what happens with panel failures, LCD display panel failures, it's usually not the display itself. Usually it's actually the cables that go bad. And it's usually from opening and closing this as they stretch from coming into the machine. So here we're going to take off the end caps. The end caps are restrained with 4 fasteners. They have little black heads. These are 2 of them in the front. I'm going to remove these. So there's 2 in the front, and then there's also 2 in the rear. See, I'll take these 2 off first on the right side as well. Take the cutter to the back side. So I can get these fasteners. This one here and this one here. things that's nice about the Creation cutters is they don't actually connect anything to the end caps. So once the screws are off, the end caps will easily fall off the machine. As such. And you can see there's nothing connected to them on the inside. All right. So on the left side here, come on, see this? So on the left side here, we have the stepper motor. This one drives the carriage. So your carriage drive motor is over here. As this rotates, it moves the carriage back and forth, and then it's just belt wound around the gear train here. You also have the power supply input and the switch. So if you ever have to replace a switch, that's right here. Quick connectors, so you can replace these pieces here and plug them, unplug them, and plug in the new pieces. Then we go around to the other side. So probably the most common repair part on almost all vinyl cutters is the USB port. And here's the USB port for these. This is the newer style. The newer style includes a cable. So to exchange the USB port, it's a continuous one-piece cable. If you flip it upside down, you'll get to these screws here, and that will remove this aluminum bracket which mounts this. So if you remove these screws, this aluminum bracket will come off, and then this cable will be able to come out. And this cable is the piece that needs to be changed. You can see it's connected to the inside of the machine. So we're going to go inside the machine. So to get inside the machine, we need to remove this bottom plate, which is connected with fasteners in this top rail and the bottom rail here. So I'm going to rotate the cutter upside down. I'm going to unscrew these fasteners. Now sometimes these fasteners have lock washers under them. For older cutters, I know they have lock washers, and it gets really difficult to remove the fasteners. If that happens, what you want is you want to get a pair of pliers, and after they come loose, just pull them out with a pair of pliers. I have on hand my handy dandy pair of pliers for grabbing the heads of the fasteners if needed. In this case, they don't have lock washers under them, so these are coming out pretty easy. So anytime you need to replace a cable, LCD display cable, USB cable, any of that, you're going to have to open the bottom of the machine to get to the motherboard, because these are all connected to the motherboard. So once the bottom tray is loose, what you'll want to do is you'll want to pivot it down to the floor like this. And be careful, because there's connections here that are fairly tight. You don't want to pull on any cords. Okay, so if you come in a little closer here, we can see the parts that are in the tray. We have the power supply, and there's a couple different power supplies. There's a large one and a small one. The large one is for the larger cutters, the small one is for the smaller cutters. And these, if you ever need to replace them, just take out the wires. Always take a picture first before you do a replacement. After you've taken your picture, you'll just swap wire for wire with the new power supply. This power supply is held in place with these fasteners, and they go through the bottom of the tray. We do have a little trick here when we're doing exchanging fasteners that are on the bottom of a tray. It's always helpful, after you've loosened these up, to tape these on the bottom so they don't fall out. Sometimes we use transfer tape or scotch tape to hold them in place, so you can put the new part on and put them on, and then you can hold with your finger the head of the fastener so it doesn't derotate, and then you can screw these back on after you've replaced the power supply. This is the fan unit. There's one fan in smaller cutters. There's 2 fans in the larger cutters, I believe. And the fan just has some wires that go directly to the power supply. When the power supply goes on, the fan goes on. And then the motherboard. So probably the second most common part to replace. All the connections are unique on the motherboard, so you don't have to worry about getting things in the wrong place, with the exception of the motors. So on the 730, there's 2 motors, one to drive the roller bar and one to drive the carriage, which is on the left-hand side. On the larger cutters, there's actually 2 motors that drive the roller bars. And so there'll be 3 connections for motors. The motor connections are the same, so make sure that you connect them in the same order when you swap out a motherboard. This is the power supply to the motherboard. These are the keypad and LCD display connections. And then here we have the USB port. So this is very common. So this is a single cable that goes here to the USB. So take this aluminum bracket off, like this. And then once this aluminum bracket is off, you'll see the USB cable is right there and can easily be replaced with the new one. And then just reuse the mounting bracket to remount it and put it back. So very common with USB cables. Let's see what else we got here. In this connection here, this is the carriage connection. So it activates the carriage to go up and down. So to replace a carriage, and always be careful when you're putting this stuff back together, you don't want to pinch any cables. I'm going to take these back up so I can rotate the machine back down. So for the carriage, to replace a belt or to replace the carriage, on the right hand side over here, you have the belt tensioner. So the belt tensioner is tensioned by this fastener here. You loosen it up or you tighten it to create additional tension in the belt. If you're going to replace the belt or replace the carriage, you want to remove all the tension. And I'm just going to loosen up this screw. And I'm going to loosen up this screw. And you'll see this is free to slide. And when it slides in, you can see it gives more tension to the belt. If you're going to replace the belt, you might actually want to take this off. As you can see here on the back of the carriage, the belt is held in place with this belt clip. And when you're replacing the belts here need to be kind of sized correctly and sized exact. The bottom of this plate has little grooves to grip onto the 2 ends of the belt. So you're going to put the new belt in, and you want to look from the end to make sure it isn't twisted. If you're changing the belt, I recommend detaching this, taping the new belt to the old belt, pulling out the old belt and pulling the new belt in through, and then looking to make sure it's not twisted, and then folding it around correctly to come back to here. What you'll do is you'll take this plate off and you'll put the new plate on to connect the belt ends of the new belt, and then you'll reassemble it. This carriage cover comes off easily. It's just snapped on. There's no fasteners to hold it on. So if you just kind of pull at it, it'll come up from the bottom and it'll slide out from the top. Like that. So it's just a plastic cover. You can see the carriage here. Sometimes these wheels need replaced. They're easily replaceable. A lot of times this clip here will get cracked in the back from over tightening the thumb screw. If you have to replace the clip, It's just these two fasteners here. You can take the old one off and put the new one on. This return spring here, you can see, is just held on by these two fasteners. That's easy to replace. Usually when these other mechanisms go bad, people just replace the entire carriage. This plate here controls the solenoid. You can see the solenoid leads going to this PCB here, which goes through the this cable here and then back through down to the motherboard. So that's pretty much how to replace that cable. This belt rather. Cable similar. You would unhook it here. It is actually glued to the back tray here with hot glue. So just peel it off, run the new cable through, put the new cable on, and then a little dab of hot glue underneath the cable and push it down. We'll tether it to the center of the machine. So I'm going to put this back on. So carriages are kind of difficult to get on and off. These little spring wheels need to be pushed, spread open to allow it to straddle the rail and go down. And then once you get in this position, a strong force to the bottom will push it in like that. So you can't be gentle. It takes a decent force to push it in. Once it's on, it's on. And then back here to the belt tensioner, we're going to retension the belt. You can see it tensioning. So I don't know if you can hear that or see that. That's about the right tension for this belt. So you can see as I jiggle the carriage, there's no play. You know, it moves with the motors. Down here, if I grip the clamp, there should be no play or very little play in the system. So that's what you're looking for. Carriage cover back on. And this just snaps in. Make sure when you have the carriage cover back on that the carriage arm is still free to go up and down without being restricted by the cover. I want to make sure it's not hitting the cover anywhere. Okay, the Teflon cutting strip. On newer models, there's actually a hole in the side plate here that allows you to slide a new strip in from the end. Unfortunately, on other models, there's not a hole, and what you need to do is you need to tap the strip in with a hammer. I have another video, you'll see me doing that. Basically, you put in the back edge, and then you tap the front edge down with a hammer all the way across, and that'll get you to replace the cutting strip. We are working on getting thinner cutting strips that can be put on with double-sided sticky tape, so hopefully we'll have those coming soon. Next, I would like to look at the replacement of the display panel. So as I mentioned before, you've got these, and also on the motherboard connections, there is hot glue that is used to secure the connections. That's common practice to keep the connections intact. A lot of times during shipping, you'll have vibrations in shipping and that will cause connections to come loose. So they put hot glue on them so that they don't come loose in shipping. The display cables, and the hot glue can be removed with just a pair of pliers. You just kind of grab it with a pair of pliers and you peel at it until it comes off. The display here, I'm going to tilt this back so you can see the display better. You can see the display. So, as I mentioned before, these fasteners for the display, they run all the way through. I'm going to change my bit to, I believe this is a 3/32. Not exactly sure, but what you're going to do is you're going to want to loosen up these nuts. And if you push on the other side, you might be able to get them to unspin like that one did. And you can swap out the display panel without taking the decal off. So I'm moving the carriage out of the way. Notice that I'm moving it slowly. As a side note, anytime you move the carriage by hand, the carriage is connected to the motor. The motor's still connected to the motherboard. When it's driving it, current goes to the motor and it moves the carriage. If you move the carriage, you're actually inducing a reverse current through the motor back into the motherboard. So if you ever have to move the carriage, move it very slowly so the system can absorb the current that's being generated by the motor. If you move it really fast, you'll generate a high current which could damage the motherboard. Okay, so that's two. All 6 fasteners. And once those are out, panel will come off. And you can see here the new panel should look just pretty much like the old one. These connections on the end, these will disconnect. If you have to replace the cables, you don't actually have to take the panel off. You can just pull the connectors off and then rerun the cable down along the side here, just follow the same path, and then down into the motherboard here, and you can swap out the connections here for the display and the keypad. As I mentioned before, this decal is replaceable. So in the event that you have to remove the decal to get at the heads of the fasteners, you can just replace the decal. Limit switches. So on the left and right sides of the cutter, we have these red limit switch buttons. These red limit switches reset the cutter. As I mentioned before, you always want to reset the cutter whenever a job gets stuck or anytime you're changing drivers. So to change out the limit switches, that's pretty easy. There's just a nut on here. You just rotate the nut. Same thing with the other side. And then the switch will pop through the plate, and then you just follow the wiring. And the limit switches are connected directly to the motherboard right here in the front. So keypad LCD, limit switch, carriage, motor, power supply, and USB connection. So that pretty much covers everything that someone might want to change at home. Motors, they do get replaced every once in a while. So motors are pretty easy. This one has 2 fasteners here. That will let the motor come off. The belt will become loose, and then you'll be able to put the new one in, pull it tense when you're tightening back in the fasteners. The other side is a similar case. So for this motor, you have 4 fasteners in the top of the motor. As soon as you loosen them up, the belt will become loose, and then you can drop the motor, put the new motor in. For the connections, these are actually connectorized, so you can just disconnect it here, replace the motor, reconnect it here, and use the same harness. And I think that's everything that you might want to do at home. So you're always welcome to send cutters in to us for refurbishment and part replacement as needed. And if you have any other questions when you're actually doing a repair at home and you need technical support, please contact us at cutterpros.com, live chat, or call us at 888-828-8776, and we can help walk you through any of these repairs. Thank you.